Guys, this is Lauren from Girly Knits, and today I'm going to teach you how to do duplicate stitch. Duplicate stitch actually doesn't require you to know anything about knitting. It's a technique where you just use like a darning needle and some yarn, and it's a way to add color work to your knitting without, using like Fair Isle or Intarsia or whatever, because you can actually apply the color work after you've knitted the piece. Which means that you could actually add color work to like a sweater you own, or to jazz up something you knitted in the past. So it's really fun. Like, it has a lot of versatility, and I really like it. I find it actually a lot easier to do than holding your color as you knit, because you always get like yarn tangled up and stuff, and so it's a little tricky. But duplicate stitch is really cool, and so I'm excited to share it with you. I use duplicate stitch on my Be My Valentine fingerless mitten, so I use that to do this heart right here, and to put you. The other glove says I heart, and this one says you, so it says I heart you. And so those are a lot of fun. You can check those out under patterns at girlyknits.com. And then I also use the technique on my eye candy eye masks for doing like these hearts and doing these letters. And I'm actually going to show you how to do this heart today, and there's going to be a chart down below. If you're on my blog, knittingisawesome.com/duplicate stitch, you can actually get a free chart from me, and so you can practice doing duplicate stitch, and I'm going to show you just how to do this chart. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. Alright, so as I said, I'm going to show you how to do a little heart, and you can see a chart below so you can follow along with me. And I just have this little swatch and some green yarn that I'm going to show you with. And like I said, you just need like a blunt tapestry needle, one that's like not sharp, which is good for yarn. You probably have one of these lying around, maybe, that you've used for like seaming. So yeah, so the first thing you want to do is mark where you want to start your heart. Now if you have like a glove or something, you do want to try it on and mark like where the center is on your hand, because sometimes it's not exactly where you think it is just looking at it flat. So that's just a little tip. And then you can mark it, with like a needle, or if you have like a washable pen or something. So yeah, just a little tip there. So the basic concept of duplicate stitch is that you are going to replicate the stitch. And to do that, you're going to go through the back of your knitting below the stitch that you want to duplicate. So, for example, let's say we want to duplicate this stitch right here. So we're going to go through the stitch below the stitch you want to duplicate. So if we're duplicating this stitch, so we're going to come through the back with that stitch. And then we are going to go back and around the stitch above the one we're duplicating, so behind the two sides of the V of the stitch that above the stitch that we're trying to duplicate. And then we're going to end up going back through the stitch below the one we're duplicating. And yay, we've duplicated a stitch. Okay, so that's like the very bottom of the heart. Now we're going to duplicate these three stitches above that. So again, we're going to go through the back of the stitch below the one we're duplicating there. And I found that it's easier actually if you're going left to right. It's good to go left to right when you're going behind the stitch above the one we're duplicating, and then vice versa, as I'll show you when we go right to left. But then again, we're going to go through the one below, and then in this case we're actually going through the stitch we already duplicated, because that is the stitch that's below the one we're duplicating. And again, we're going to go from left to right, and then through the one below, and then back there. And then, yay, we just did 2 rows of the heart. Great, okay. So now, again, we're going to go through the back of the stitch below the one we're duplicating. And then this time I'm going to go right to left, because we're going right to left behind the stitch above the one we're duplicating, because like I said, it just looks prettier, I found. And then when you're going through the stitch below the one that you're duplicating, it's helpful to just put your needle right in to through the back of the next stitch that you'll be duplicating. So if you think ahead, you'll know exactly where your needle's going. And we almost have a heart. It's coming along. I hope this is easy to follow along. Okay, so in this case, we're going, the next stitch we're duplicating is above this one, and so we're going through the stitch below, and then we're going right back into that stitch that we just duplicated, because that happens to be the one below the next one we're duplicating. So now we're on the last row, and there's going to be 2 stitches on this side. And then we're just going to skip this one because we're not duplicating that center stitch, and then just go right over to that guy. Go through that stitch, and that is the very last stitch. Yay! So look how easy that was. Now we have this cute little heart on our knitting, and what it looks like from the back is just like this, and then when you're done, you're just going to want to cut these ends and like weave them in back here so it's all nice and pretty. And there you go, you have a little heart. I hope it went well for you, and if you're having any trouble, just let me know. Hope that helped. Bye.